African heads of states have attended numerous summits. Collectively, they've attended summits in at least 5 different countries, with the most recent one being in Paris in May of this year. The questions that remain unanswered is that what benefits has this summit brought to Africa and African people? Has this summit brought economic change in Africa? Well, I sat down with the young Pan-Africanists to dig further about this issue. Here with me now is my friend who does not need introduction and a friend of the show, Langa. Langa, thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you for hosting me in your show as always.
Absolutely. Langa, now we often see African heads of states or ministers attend summits in different countries. What is about this summit?
In order to speak about this summit, we need to really speak about the genesis, how this summit get to begin. And if someone get to speak about the genesis of this summit, someone get to divide it into Old Testament of this summit and the New Testament of the summit. The Old Testament of the summit, it's the time that they met in Berlin in 1884 and 1885. That was the beginning of the Lutein Summit, whereby the Europeans sat at that time and they divided Africa as if like you are dividing a cake on how and who should loot from where. So coming to the modern time, which is the New Testament of those summits, after Africa gained their independence and they become separate states, again the looters are following us. They came to us through summits, investment summits, in which like all the superpower, the massive economic countries started to approach Africa differently. China started in 2000 setting their timetable or intervals of every 3 years. They do a summit whereby they call African leaders in Beijing, in different Chinese cities and towns to discuss on how they can loot Africa. Secondly, India started approaching Africa earlier, but they're starting the summit in 2008. Again, India gave their own intervals, 2008, 2011, and 15. Coming to the US always engaged in Africa in different type of mini summit, but the official one was in 2014, whereby US invited all African leaders here so that to sit and talk to them how to loot Africa. Coming, the last one is Russia. Russia called African Isuchi in 2019, and also France called Africa 2 months ago, I guess, in France in 2021 here. So that is how the roadmap of those summits.
So it looks to me like this is a strategy of the West to Africa. So what benefits or what interest, first of all, what do those countries, what is their interest in Africa in these summits?
Okay, to be fair in my speech, in order to do any business, each party need to lay their interest down. In this summit, the Western world, they have laid their interests clearly, and let me break it down by China, starting with China. China wanted where they can get raw materials, where they can give loan to Africa, and that is the new looting. Give them loan, let them not pay, come and capture their institution. China gave loan to East Africa, and China started building railway there. China gave loan to the AU Shemflu, and China started building the AU building in Ethiopia, as if like our engineers don't know how to build
infrastructure projects.
Yeah, China went to Zambia, but the problem here, if you cannot pay the loan, they will come and capture sectors of life. And if you doubt me, ask what happened in Zambia. Chinese are there, they have occupied the electricity of Zambia, and they are even selling maize in Zambia. Coming to India. India has been coming to Africa back and forth. But India, modern interest in Africa is to find their way of taking part of Africa. And we have seen how India been involved in East Africa. is stealing or involved in a dirty business of teak and mahogany, and even in West Africa, India been involved, the one where they can sell their rice, as if like our land don't know how to produce rice. Coming to Russia 2019, Russia called Africans, and before going to Russia, let me go back to India a little bit. The last summit of India in 2015, it was so shameful. Africans were dressed all in an Indian dress.
Very degraded.
That was very degraded to head of state. You see them dressing an Indian dress. That is very degradeful. Let me come to Russia. Russia, by the time Russia called Africans in Sochi, they called Africans, they were touring Africa into weapons instead of touring Africa into how do they build their nation, but they were touring them on how to buy the weapons. Finally, coming to France. And France, we all know the brutal pass that France did to Africa. And France is only gaining her power from two. And to be honest, it's either the veto that they were given or the wealth of Africa. Without these two, France has no power. If you doubt me, who won for them a World Cup? It was Africans who won for them a World Cup. So that is how the looters get to approach Africa in the name of investment.
So the recent summit though in France, as you mentioned, the summit was how to help Africa recover economically post-COVID. Now, if you look at statistics, the West in general got hit harder than Africa. Even the mortality rate due to COVID was lower in Africa than the West. So therefore, their economy was the one that collapsed even twice as much. Don't get me wrong, Africa economy collapsed too. But what is the strategy? What is France after here for this summit? And also France, we had erased Sudan's debt for 5 billion, I believe. What is France seeking? What do they want in return?
Okay. It's always great to look at the other side of the coin. It's not bad to be called for like a summit and all this. But if we are to view, COVID is real. It has affected all over the world. And
Right.
data are there. Europe and Western countries are the most affected to COVID than Africa.
Right.
But approach of France, that is the beginning. That is the beginning of the show. Others will start approaching Africa because they're hit badly. They need a way of recovering from COVID. African leaders, instead of looking into that as an opportunity to enter into win-win deal, they're always disappointing us in entering into permanent lose deal. So that is how it's going to happen. And secondly, talking about France releasing some of the loan of Sudan,
5 billion.
5 billion. France has interest mostly in that part of the world. Why? Because migration get to occur from Sudan part.
Through Sudan.
Migrants get to come to Sudan, Darfur, Libya, and Libya there to Europe. So France wants to settle the issue of migration by settling the government. And that is another example of how migration issue have been weakly solved. Instead of returning what you have looted from them back home, you start dealing with the governments to shut these people in one way or the other. And to be honest, giving relieving Sudan 5 billion of their debt without knowing what you have done in Sudan. There's so many reports of France being repatriating gold of Sudan for a long time without that gold entering into the budget of Sudan. Is that a win-win deal? They are always behind the scenes deal. And African leaders need to put it clearly, because it's not about them, it's about the generational interest. What's the interest of generation to come?
Right. We've talked about the benefits of this summit, how it benefits the Western countries and what they gain. But what we didn't talk about, what does this summit benefit Africa and African people? What good or changes does this summit bring to Africa?
Okay, to be really honest, and then I'm really honest by saying the only benefit of this summit is photo session. Taking photos in New York, in Paris, taking photo in Sochi.
Meanwhile, people are dying of hunger and disease.
African leaders don't have an eye to see. Some of them claim to be Christian. And let me pick some of the belief of Christian. Blessed are those who have the eyes to see. But our African leaders even don't have the head that has the brain, that has the eyes to see. African leaders need to invest into their people, human resources, not to look beyond themselves. All of them are looking for their own interest, taking loans, unable to pay, and generation get to carry the interest of the loan. So African leaders, instead the interest of them, they have more interest in sitting in Ethiopia. They have more interest in sitting in Marrakesh. They have more interest in sitting in Ouagadougou. Why? Because this is where you can sit with your African brothers and discuss your business opportunity, and the greatest buyer of your goods is your neighbor.
Right.
It is easy for me to sell my good from Burkina Faso to Ghana than sending it from Burkina Faso to France. The benefit of getting from here is great. Why don't we work on setting that infrastructure? Good enough they say that, oh, African agenda. But that African agenda is laying on a fragile foundation. Why don't we start strengthening those foundations in order for us to have business with one another? And another part that I can speak about it, the issue of taking loan. African leaders need to start looking into, whenever you want to take loan, don't take loan as individual. Take loan as a block. Take loan as a block.
East Africa,
yes.
ECOWAS, go as a block.
Go as a block, even to learn. And after that, the block will hold the specific country accountable. But the moment that you go and take it as individual, they will come and capture the institution of the country, and you won't have something to say. So they need to look very critically into how do they take those loans, and what are the terms of those loans. And it's so funny. You have the raw material. Who should be the one running after you? You are not supposed to be running after them. They should be running after you.
It looks to me like this summit is basically a strategy. It's a new strategy of the West to continue their looting by borrowing African money that they can't pay to. Instead of creating Africa's generational wealth, these loans are creating Africa's generational debt. So what is your assess to that?
Of course, you are right by putting it, it's like generational debt. Because now when we see the Equatorial Guinea guy, the Obiang family, in power, and Europe that works for human rights, when Obiang goes there, they don't ask him. When you see Paul Biya in power for long, when you see Museveni in power, these are the same people that go to those summits of people who claim to be a human rights.
Right.
That should open their eyes. That should open the eyes of each individual in Africa. They only care about you when they get a benefit from you. But the moment you become stubborn like Muammar al-Gaddafi, they throw you out. The moment you become stubborn like Lumumba, you are killed. The moment you get stubborn like Sankara,
Mugabe.
Disappear. Mugabe. So young Africans, and this is so, this show is all about young Africans need to focus. Whenever there is a deal in business, disturb your government official. Don't make them comfortable. Engage them in a serious conversation of generation. Because if not, your generation will come and carry the debt that you yourself are unable to pay.
And also, this is something that I don't understand, and it's very disturbing, that why can't African leaders come up with a summit in Addis Ababa or in Kigali to discuss about African issue and come up with a solution like they did come up with Agenda 2063. You see the West, they have G7. Actually, the annual meeting is taking place right now in Europe. The US president is attending. Why can't Africa do the similar thing and come up with something like that?
Again, this one comes to the will. We are lacking leaders who have a will to deliver, belong to a place that you call it home. Most of these Africans, even the money that they looted, they are storing it in Switzerland. They are not storing those wealth even back home. They don't have the will. The moment Africans do have a will, and I count on young Africans because young Africans are over 70%. I count on them. They should have a will of serving the continent, genuinely, irrespective. In order for you to benefit, let's meet together in Kampala, let's meet in Lusaka, let's meet in Eswatini. That is where our interest lies. That's where our trading makes sense. Than us meeting all the time. We are called like I don't know what, everywhere when we go. They call us in Russia, we go. They call us in what we go.
But we never called.
It's a time that Africans need to sit down as African unions,
right.
And blocks need to sit down and start calling these people and laying down your foundation. What do I want from you? What do you want from me?
So in order for us, first of all, to solve the problem that we have in Africa, we have to acknowledge the problem and then come up with a solution. It seems to me as if African leaders do not acknowledge the problem that's going on in Africa.
They are very strange to the problem of people. The moment that they get to understand the problem of people, they will understand how to solve it. But they are always strained. When you act strained with a problem, you will never find a solution to it.
As always, Lwanga, thank you so much for the insight of this summit. I hope you guys learn up something about the summit. If you do have questions, please drop them in the comments. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please remember to subscribe and share. Thank you for your time.
Most welcome.